Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
I was just going to say, I had never seen the show until a couple of months ago. Last year, I did 2 months in a federal prison. And while I was in there, I told them, I was like, yeah, I'm here for 60 days. And they kept giving me these weird looks. And then somebody was like, they think you're in some part of a TV show called 60 Days In. Because, you really don't fit in, And I was just like, I don't know what that is. He's like, oh, it's where they send in a narc. And I'm just like, no. No. So when I got out, I was like, I got to watch this fucking TV show that they were all talking about. But that's got to be a problem going forward, because every season the show gets more popular and more inmates are aware of the show. So if a fucking production crew shows up to your jail, you've got to immediately start wondering, are they filming 60 Days In right now?
So the company that we actually filmed with isn't A&E. It's and for safety reasons, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna name the production company. It's Lucky A Casting that does it, but they'll come in and they'll have people sign waivers. Everyone that's in the pod has to sign a waiver, and it says what production company it was. Well, part of me didn't realize it was the guy Ratchet, the guy that jumped Dylan. And he called home and had someone do some research, and they were like, hey, this production company works for A&E. And so I'm sitting there the whole time stressing, like, oh, goodness gracious, because there's only one jail show on A&E.
Yeah.
Like, I hope they're not smart enough to put this together. But then I played it off completely. And I was like, did you see that one guy, the camera guy? He had a lockdown raw key tag, on his keys. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah. And so then they started believing it was the show Lockdown.
Yeah.
So, I was like, oh, thank God.
They took the bait. Thank goodness.
Yeah, they need a good cover story, because I can't think of many things you would want to be known as less than a narc in there. Like you can be gay, or you can be a race traitor. But if you're a narc, then that's just going against. They're not going to have anything to do with you, and they may very well hurt you. But at the very least, they're going to try to get you the fuck out of that pod.
Oh, yeah. They're going to run you out. Absolutely. I would.
Yeah.
I would. Absolutely. So, yeah, thank God. I know some of the other pods, the pod with Abner and the female pod, they mentioned 60 days.
Oh, you're talking about the Enforcer?
Who? Oh, you, Vivian? Who was the Enforcer my season?
Abner. Constantly. It was
he slapped the shit out of that kid.
That was hilarious. Good for him. That was one of his best bits.
So the public opinion turned on him. At that point, he was the strongest, participant our season, and he was, the enforcer of the. Apparently, if y'all didn't know, he was the enforcer of the Chicanos.
Yeah.
Okay, if you didn't know that, okay, but I saw a lot of public opinion, especially Twitter, that turned on him when he did that. And I understand it doesn't look good, but most of us have never lived in that environment. I think he probably saved the kid's life.
I understood it, because not only was like he was in a position where he really had to slap that kid, because the kid was talking shit to him instead of listening. And it was like at some point he had to back up all the stuff that he'd been saying. And he had lived that life for real in the past. So, like, he had to slap that guy. That guy was lucky that all he got was a slap, really.
That was the big-eared fuck who was stealing sodas, right?
No.
It was the kid that was, like, he wanted to run with all the different races.
Oh,
like, we had Dylan, but then in Abner's pod, they had that kid. I think he was from Hawaii, or he looked like he was Hawaiian, maybe. Yeah. So I understood it. And I understand the perception that people had from that, and a lot of people turned on him, but he probably straightened that kid out.
Yeah, that kid needed a slap. And really, he had to deliver that slap, or he was going to start looking very weak in front of everyone. If he let a newcomer, and not just a newcomer, but like that kid was like 19, maybe 20, something like that. If he lets that guy talk shit to him and sort of, he kind of had to do that to maintain his cover. But it didn't look good.
Explain to people. I remember they were talking to him, and they called him. If I remember right, he told him to shut up. And there are some things, and there are some things you don't do in jail. And if you don't respond, like if you're called a bitch, or stuff like that, you've got to respond.
Yeah, that won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
it
that won't work.
just doesn't look like much fun at all. Something I do get a kick out of on that show is there has never been a convincing backstory like the cover stories. They make those so intentionally convoluted and difficult. I watched a guy who clearly they took one guy whose charge was growing a bunch of pot, a huge grow op, and they put him in the room with a guy who's in there for a grow op. And even in all his interviews, he's just like, I just hope he doesn't ask me anything about weed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Look, so where do you get your seeds from? What wattage are you running down there? How do you handle the I'd rather not talk about it. Why? Why not?
Well, it's just natural that a lot of these people have never been undercover. Now, in the military, I worked as what's called a human intelligence collector. So what we do is we did some undercover work, and so I had the experience. Not a massive amount of experience, but I've been undercover before in a military setting, and I think people, they don't know how to sell their story, and if anyone questions them, like that deer in the headlight type look. I never had any problems with my story. My story was possession of stolen checkbooks. So I took a little bit of truth and I grained it with a lot of lies because I'm a real estate agent here in Georgia. Well, I don't do it now. I'm actually back in law enforcement. But I just said, hey, I fell on hard times. We would go to people's houses. I'm showing them the house, and there'd be a stolen checkbook out there, a checkbook out there, and then I would just steal it. And so I took a little bit of truth, ingrained it with a whole lot of lies, and I think people, they just don't know how to sell that story. And I've never had any issues except pigs and stolen bikes in the beginning, but we overcame that one.
Yeah, there was one woman who. She was talking to someone else, and the other lady was like, "And what's your name?" And she had to like, Kimberly.
Bracelet.
She looked at her bracelet, and then there was another guy who his cover story was that he embezzled money, and it is very clear that even in the jail, he does not know what embezzlement means. He doesn't because he's in the cell. It's like a white guy, black guy. They're in the cell. The white guy's the one undercover, and the black guy asks, like, what are you in for? White guy's like, embezzlement. And he just goes, embezzlement? What that is? And then you hear the white guy give not that correct an explanation of what he did to constitute embezzlement. I think it was something like, yeah, I worked for a charity, and then and they accused us of taking the money. And it was like, I guess strictly that's right, but that's not very compelling. But his Celly bought it, if I recall. And there are other times where someone will go in thinking they're so confident. I think Calvin was one of those characters. Calvin was a black guy who had very nice hair, and immediately they picked up on that.
Guy.
Yeah,
he was the one that came in and he said, "Let me show you my crib."
Yeah,
that went over well.
Wait, what did they pick up on with his hair? I didn't follow.
So he gets in his cell, and he clearly has like a fresh new do. He's clean cut, like does not look like a guy that belongs in prison. And he leaves to do an interview, I suppose, or as Mark has been saying, it is heavily edited. And as he's saying, obviously this is edited, he's saying, I really think they trust me. I got in there. They really seem to like me. And then it shows his Celly standing on the desk, shouting through the air vent, being like, yeah, his hair way too nice. He's on 60 days in. This motherfucker's on 60 days in. And then it goes back to Calvin being like, I think I've earned their trust. It's like, no, you're fucked. You're fucked.
Yeah, that was so good. He'd been there like an hour. He just had gotten there. He's like, I get this locked down. And then the editing is so good. You never know with the editing because it's a reality show, but editing straight to that guy will be like, yeah, 60 days in. I'm just like, I'm all good.
Oh yeah. And like one of the best characters, I say characters, but one of the participants is Nate from season 3 and 4. And I think you even said in one of your interviews, you're like, I want to be one of the good ones. I want to be like Nate. I want to like conquer this. Nate is the one, if you don't know, he did 60 days so well in season 3 that they asked him, you want to do 60 more? And he's like, sure. Let's do it. And like anything bad happens to Nate during it, like a black guy fucks with his iPad that you can rent. And immediately, everybody in the cell, not just the white guys, other black guys he's friends with, they're like, we got your back. We're going to go fuck him up for breaking your iPad. And he has to like be like, you know, guys, I don't think we shouldn't fuck him up too bad. And they're
no, we're gonna hold him down. You stomp his eye.
Yeah.
Maybe nothing with the eyes. Oh, you gotta get the eyes.
Yeah.
To all the 60 Days In fans that love Nate, I'm going to break your heart for a minute. You know, they actually flew him out there, and he was part of our prepping crew. Like, you had us, you know, all sitting in the hotel conference room, and they're telling us, you know, when the sheriff and all them introduced themselves, he actually came out there and did a whole lot of, like, about an hour of talking to us and getting us ready, and they completely cut it. And so he had the opportunity to be at least on the first episode of season 5, and for whatever reason, the TV gods decided no.
How did your plan going in for getting along with everyone, like, go off course, or did your plans come and work out? Like, you must have had some sort of strategy for social stuff.
Yes. My strategy going in for social stuff was to not do anything and sit back and chill. About 8 days in, they called me out for an interview, and they were like, you can't do that. You got to get involved. And I was like, but I guess it wasn't good TV. So, you know, as I said, being a man of faith, you know, that's kind of where I went. I was like, hey, you know what? Everybody, haven't been a CO in the past. Everybody loves Bible study. And so that was kind of my end. There was a couple of things I did. One thing also that got left at the on the editing room floor, if you will, was I've got a bachelor's degree and all that stuff. So I'd like to think I'm semi-educated. But, you know, I helped write resumes for a lot of the guys.
That could get hilarious real quick.
Oh, it was awesome.
What work experience do you have?
Yeah. Crackhead, you know. But I helped write resumes for a lot of the guys because, you know, a lot of them were good people. I mean, they screwed up. They had addiction issues, whatever the case may be. But I didn't want to see them come back. So I would write resumes. I probably wrote 30 resumes in there for the guys. And then the Bible study thing. And,
what was the most you ever had to stretch a resume? Like, where's someone, like, you're like, I'm going to help you out, John. What work experience? Like, was there one where you're just filling in words? Like, any really funny ones?
So there was this one guy. He was, I don't know, maybe 25. He was a young kid. I mean, relatively speaking. Mm-hmm. And like every time he'd smile, he had like one tooth. And he had no life experience, like crystal meth. And he did a lot of meth. And he was still a good kid, but I believe we put that he had a lot of management experience, where he was actually a drug dealer. I mean, it is what it is. You know?
Did he have anyone underneath him?
Pharmaceutical
sales experience.
Yeah,
in the pharmaceutical industry.
I like that.
One-track mind. Doesn't waste time with deodorant.
High energy.
High energy.
I liked it. Yeah.
He was the unlicensed neighborhood pharmaceutical or pharmacist.
There we go.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I think he got a job as an ER physician after that. I mean, you know, I hope they don't find out his real past.
You can pop that on here. Yes, he's walking in there like, I don't know what you got, but I know what I need. You know, but what was you always imagine the biggest drugs in there are going to be heroin flying around willy-nilly. Is that true, or is it just a menagerie of everything?
You know, unlike the other facilities, our facility wasn't that broken. I will be honest with you. It wasn't that broken. I would say the biggest drugs that came in and out of our facility, yeah, there were some people suitcased it, and by suitcasing it, what I mean is they shove it up their butt. Yes. And but the biggest smuggle out there is the pharmaceutical drugs. So, you know, pill call would come, they'd cheek it, and they wouldn't swallow it, and then they'd sell it. So that was probably the biggest drug in there, is just prescription drugs.
That makes sense. Probably easier to get on the outside, or actually, no, not at all. I don't know anything about heroin.
Now that being said, I don't know a lot. Apparently,
Sure you
because
do. Don't
was the
short
Bible
yourself.
study guy.
You told me all about your heroin days.
But don't look at the crux of my elbows. Yeah, right off with a rubber hose. And
I
just
thought
start
you
feeling
breathed in
it.
heroin this whole time.
You
What's
can
the
smoke
one
heroin.
with
You
the
can smoke
spoon?
opium if you want.
What's the spoon one?
That's
Spoon is you
heroin.
line it and you
all right.
draw it out and then you inject it. But you can also smoke opium. I doubt a lot of opium is being smoked in these prisons.
I don't recall seeing any.
Nobody's smoking opium outside of like 18th century fucking San
China.
Francisco.
I was gonna say China,
Or
maybe.
17th or 19th century. Yeah, nobody's smoking
the
opium
samurai.
anymore.
Get with it, Taylor. You
Sherlock Holmes
doofus.
did.
Jeez, Taylor.
Yeah,
It's like you act
Exactly.
like you know about the
Thank
drug
you.
market, dude.
Sherlock Holmes did it in China. Or no, actually, that was in the UK.
How many episodes in a row are you going to come off like a square, huh, Taylor?
I'm just a bitch. Just a drug bitch. a hard drug bitch. So, yeah.
I always I like the episode when the guys were making hooch in their cell and like trying to hide it, and it wasn't like they were making like a bottle of alcohol. Hooch is like contraband alcohol that they're making using like fruit pulp that they're getting from either commissary or from their lunch trays. They weren't making a bottle of it. They had like 3 gallons of it they were cooking up in like a tote.
How do you even
Underneath-
hide that?
It smells so
You gotta
strongly if you've never smelled it. Like it's potent, sort of sweet, rotten sort of smell. If you get anywhere near it, you smell it. It was outrageous that they thought they could hide that.
So the police just didn't care. The correctional officers didn't.
No, they walked in the cell, was like, I smell hooch. And they like drag out a tote full of alcohol,
Oh.
and it's like a gigantic trash bag full of this stuff. And they're like, all right, whose is it? And the one guy's like, it's mine. All right, come on, you're going to the hole. And they drag him out of there. He was done.
How strong is hooch? Is that like a vodka level thing, or you always hear the phrase toilet wine,
Yeah, I think it's more like wine. I think you're looking at like 10 or 12% alcohol.
and it's made. I wouldn't care for that. But if it's all you've
Well-
got, it'd probably pass the time.
Or another thing is orange pills. Did you ever see orange pills?
No.
They'll dry them. They'll dry them out and smoke them. Yeah.
In the prison I was in, they just had real alcohol. Like they would have somebody go and throw alcohol over the fences or fly it in with drones. And then when we'd go out for rec time, they would just go out there and they would pick up a bottle of alcohol, stuff it down their pants, and they'd be back in the dorms that night.
It's a great idea. Drones.
Yeah, drones have become more and more now. That's the preferred method because there's a sense of risk. So what a lot of people will do is they'll fill in the past is they would fill the drugs, the cell phones, whatever, in a football or a soccer ball, and then they throw it over. I don't know why I had to demonstrate throw it over. There you go.
Throwing. I get
it. Yeah. Whatever. But now there's always a risk, an inherent risk with that. And now it's become a lot easier. Just fly it in, out, and you don't have a chance of getting caught.
Yeah. But there was every drug where I was, like every conceivable drug. You would smell the marijuana. And what do they call that fucking synthetic marijuana that's always messing people up? Spice. Yeah. There would be a lot of people with spice, and but cigarettes was the main contraband item. That the guards didn't give a damn about cigarettes or tobacco in general, as long as you didn't do it right under their noses. But as soon as the guards walked like in to do a head count, like everybody that smoked went to the bathroom to light up a cigarette.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point, because anything that we planned in our pod was based on the guard schedule, because they would walk through and you knew as soon as they walked out the door, they wouldn't be back for 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So everything from whether it be drugs or fights or whatever was planned around when they left.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't remember the exact schedule, but I think they'd come through around 9 p.m. or like 9:30 p.m. And then it would be like another 3 hours before they came back through. We would have 2.5, 3 hours at a time of like no guards whatsoever at nighttime. So that's when everybody would smoke or get up to whatever else they wanted to get up to.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any fights at your prison, Kyle?
Not while I was there, I don't think. Not in front of me, for sure. Yeah.
That's because they didn't want to mess with Kyle. They knew Kyle would whoop their.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that was it. That was
In
fine.
fact, when I first heard about you, I heard that you were a ninja by training.
I do have
So-
some ninja training.
Dabbled.
I've dabbled in the ninja arts. I watched every season of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a child. I had the van that shot the pizzas, so that was.
Your ass, because I watched every season of Street Sharks.
I love Street Sharks. I know the theme song of Street Sharks. Get out of here.
Yeah. All right, well then we're equally matched.
Very well. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah. No, I don't think I ever saw any fights. I know I didn't see any. I definitely saw people get a little rowdy and like threaten each other. And I was told of some fights that had happened before I had gotten there. Like in my cell, somebody had gotten the shit beaten out of them. And I don't remember what for.
What's
I
a cell
know
in the context? Because I picture like a really big room with.
No, yeah, our cells were weird. It was a gigantic dorm room with these concrete dividers that on me they would come up to right about here, so like 5.5 feet or something like that. But there's no door. There's just concrete dividers splitting rooms alongside the wall. So one of your walls is the wall of the dorm with a little bullshit window in it, and then to your left is a 5.5 foot tall cinder block wall, and to your right is as well. And then there's just an open space to walk into a hallway.
It's the world's easiest to solve maze.
Yes. Yeah, there's no maze to it at all, really. And, there's along each side of the wall, there was a row of these cells, if you will. And then down the center, there was 2 rows of them as well. So, yeah, we were just locked in a big dorm with 125, 150 guys.
You said you were in a cell. Is that what you refer to as you and the guy, the bunk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we called those rooms. We called them cells or cubes.
Okay.
It was one or the other. You called your buddy your Celly. So which I never cared for.
Your Celly that talked too
it
much is my
sounded British.
favorite story of the whole.
Oh God, Greg was the worst. Greg, I had a cellmate that would he was about a 65-year-old black man, and he'd been in for maybe 8, and he had about 4 or 5 more to go. And he was very focused on getting out, getting his life back together. He'd see his family every Saturday. He would talk to himself continuously, all the fucking time. All the time he would talk to himself. Not about anything really poignant, really just about what he was doing right now. He's like, all right, about to get ourselves fresh and clean, as he like put his hair treatment in and like combed his hair, but getting fresh and clean, getting this day started right. Yes, sir. Old Greg getting the day started right. About to get that mouthwash. Yep, getting fresh and clean. Fresh and clean. I'm like, is he reusing mouthwash? Fresh and clean. Fresh and clean.
He spit the mouthwash back into the bottle.
Fresh and kind of clean.
Back in the bottle.
Kind of clean.
That defeats the whole point.
But it was
Of the
like, yeah,
wash.
look at Greg
It's
making
so
the bed. Greg,
It's
I'm making the
self-cleaning.
bed.
This bitch has
he would make his
particulate
bed,
floating around.
making
in
the
his-
bed, making it up right and tight. Yes, sir. Making the bed, starting the day right. Yes, sir. And I'm just up there on the top bunk, just like staring at the ceiling, like 23 more days. 23 more days.
Most
Almost
people's
sounds a
favorite
little
character in
uplifting.
the Kyle story is Snow, but I'm on Team Greg.
Greg was the worst. Greg was so annoying. Greg was more annoying than the guy that wanted to rape me. Greg was so. At least I knew where the guy that wanted to rape me was at all time, because I kept my eyes on his area of the. But Greg, I'd be asleep and I'm like, all right, good. Greg's visiting his family, and I'd hear, "Good day with the family." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good day with the family. And I'm like, oh, he's back. He's fucking back. He'd have BO all the time.
People talk to you about Greg. I mean, other people must have shared this
yes
frustration. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Snow would talk about Greg all the time. We'd be out like during rec time, like doing our laps, and I'd be like, "This motherfucker smells so bad," and he talks nonstop. He's like, "Yo, what's he talking about? He talking shit?" And I'm just like, "No, he's not talking shit. No, he's just talking to himself. He talking shit to himself." I was like, "No. What if he is? Are we gonna get him for that? Are we gonna get him for that?"
Greg,
Maybe.
you kind of smell.
I can't remember what Snow would call him, but he smelled like formaldehyde or something like that. He had
the
that.
hair stuff.
Black people have a different kind of hair treatment than we do, and I'm not very accustomed to.
Snow wasn't even black.
No, Greg was black.
Oh, Greg was black. I thought we said Snow for a second.
No, Snow was Mexican, Texan, something or another. But Greg had that stuff he put in his hair, and he was the only black person who used that particular brand. It was like old black man hair treatment that smelled so much fouler than anything else anyone else used. Like the stuff that the young black guys used, I'd smell it and be like, kind of got like a Axe body spray, kind of a nice smell to it. All right, like I could get down with something like that. That smells good, because my hair stuff was literally like a bottle of green aloe vera hair gel. It wasn't, and you had to put so much in your hair to make your hair like do anything like what mine does now. It didn't work. Greg always smelled like chemicals all the time. And I would just
Greg
have my
sounds like a
blanket
dick.
pulled over my. Greg was the worst. He was a nice guy, I guess.